Hello and welcome to the Daily Atheist Morning Show. It is Thursday, the 24th of September, 2020. I am your host, the amazing Super Chris. My co-host, Andy Hall from the Laughing in Disbelief blog over at Patheos will be joining me in just a second, as well as my other co-host, The Rage, Nokasuchi from The Rage channel on YouTube. We're going to talk some Trump craziness. I mean, just, oh man. Remember, this is supposed to be a show about religion, but the politicians are wagging the dog with the religious people and using the religion against us. And here we are. Andy's been saying it. Andy said it. He said it again and again and again. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about it. We'll be back in just a second to talk about that. Are you feeling the world is leaving you behind? Do you look at all the pseudoscience, rumors, and wild speculation on the internet and wonder, why can't I do that? Well, friend, you can. We can help you. We are Conspirowin. You may be thinking, but my idea of the center of the earth being made of ice is far-fetched. In a world where people believe windmills cause cancer, we say no dream is too big. Listen to the voices no one else can hear. Team up with Conspirowin. And hey, Andy, how's it going?
Doing okay. How about you?
Doing good. All right. Oh, I need to get things situated. Good morning, Nokasuchi. How are you doing?
Really good. Good morning. Waking up, so I'm here.
Yes, you're hearing his voice. I appreciate it. Good morning, guys. Before we get started, because this is going to be a fast hour, I suspect. Matter of fact, they'll be playing it back at my trial. Anyway, before we get too far along, I want to say hello to everybody in the damn nation. Good morning, folks. Slade Chimera, The Rage, Uri Bench, Derek Cruz. Good morning, Derek. Let's see. There was more people here. They're hiding off in here. Jadzia Dax, Ian Davenport, Brainbug, the Blazing Wizard Pope. Love you all. Good morning. Thank you for joining us and spending the morning with us. Now, also to the people on Facebook who watch on Facebook, good morning. Thank you. And the people who listen on the Daily Atheist Morning Show podcast live. Good morning, everybody. Nice to have you. Okay, so I'm going to start, guys. I hope you both had a great week so far, and I hope you're both ready for the weekend, everybody. I'm just, ready to dive into the topic. The Trump, my opinion, I have been watching what's going on in Trump, and what happened to the Weimar Republic is shockingly happening to the United States. I see that. I mean, Trump is, a lot of people don't know it, but Hitler didn't just wake up one day and go, "Oh, I got power." He gained power through corruption and all manner of things, and got all the way. They had a whole party that was doing all manner of stuff, and then there was an event called the Weimar Republic. Am I wrong?
It is the Weimar Republic is the state that existed between World War I and World War II in Germany.
Yes, the event that happened was the Reichstag, the burning of the Reichstag.
The parliament of the German state.
Right. So Hitler and his party gained power legitimately, and then they burned down their own parliament and blamed it on the Jews, and that helped them. Well, I guess it's muddy, but that's my understanding of it. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, basically, the what we definitely know for sure is that the Reichstag burned, and that the National Socialists, i.e., the Nazis, blamed, I believe, a communist on it. And that helped propel who may have been Jewish, I don't remember. And that helped propel a bunch of authoritarian power grabs by the National Socialists.
Okay, so and that exactly did, and it gave them the power. They actually went and started killing all they murdered the communists. Wasn't it the Communist Party? Right, yeah. Almost immediately after the burning of the Reichstag.
There was a bunch of street battles between Antifa, communists, and National Socialists, amongst other groups, and before the Nazis took over.
Well, one of the things. Go ahead.
And when you think about this tit for tat killing that's going on in the streets, 2 police officers being shot last night with the Breonna Taylor protests. That is really another level of violence. That is a significant step in the escalation of violence, because when you have these tit for tat killings, that really is what propels whole societies into a maelstrom of bad things.
So you kind of see where I'm going. So now, at some point historically, as we get closer to the election, at some point, somebody technically would burn down the Reichstag and they would blame it on the BLM or the Antifa and cause the right-wing people to go mad and start an attack and gain power. Of course, the people in the middle would vote extraneous powers to Adolf Trump. And all of a sudden, right, that's kind of the same thing now in our case. So they're not going to burn down Congress. Nobody's going to go burn down Congress. That's crazy. Except for the fact that they are so stirring up people in the United States that we are getting mobs and mobs of people on the, now they're getting ready not only to the whole Breonna Taylor thing. I'm not saying that was necessarily related, but it is not helping. It is getting people fired up in the streets. And we've got multiple different movements here. We've got the liberal left on a move because the conservatives are gutting our Constitution, gutting our country. They're destroying our nation. And they're about, at first they were doing it kind of, really, it was always blatant, but now they're just blah, blah, blah. They're going to try to steal the election, stack the Supreme Court. That way, after the election, the Supreme Court will go ahead, because that's where it's going to go. It'll go to the Supreme Court to decide, did Trump steal the election or did he legit? And that's where it goes. And if you stack it with a bunch of Trump supporters, and that's exactly what they're trying to do. And the liberal left is exploding. We're seeing this and we're going nuts about it. But at the same time, you've got the black people and the people of color are also got the boot on their throat, and they're tired of it because Trump has been instigating this stuff from the beginning. So now America is this boiling pot ready to explode. I was afraid at one point. I was like, there's no way we're going to get enough people on the street just thinking the liberal left, because we're like a bunch of stupid cats and can't get us together. No way you're going to get us up in arms to throw these bastards out of office, literally to drag them out of those buildings and say, you are no longer worthy of this office. There was no way that was going to happen with just the liberal left. Because there's just not enough of us. But yet now we've got the liberal left and the people of color of this nation and whenever that happens and this all goes together and we make that big move, well, they're already planning it. They've already got walls built. They've already got troops in place. And that'll be the opportunity they get. If we do storm Congress, that is our Reichstag. They didn't do it. They didn't put a secret agent in there. No, they riled up the people for 4 years to the point that we burned down our own fucking Congress, and then they take extraneous powers, and then you have Trump as Nixon or Trump as Hitler.
I just want to point,
bad Chris.
Talk to those who think it isn't that bad. I'm a fan of Hardcore History. It's a great podcast. Dan Carlin hosts it. He also hosts another podcast called Common Sense. And Dan, in his last podcast episode on Common Sense, really went down a laundry list of how bad things are. And he's basically recapitulating in more calmer words what we're saying. He hasn't voted for he's voting for Biden for one thing, and Mr. Carlin hasn't voted for a main party candidate for 20 or 30 years, I believe. That's what he said. So there are reasons why things are as bad as they are, and that things can take a really dark trajectory from here too.
Well, I think it's a condemnation of America that we don't understand, or a lot of people don't understand what happened in Germany leading up to Hitler's ascension of power. It's always a thought experiment that I've tried to practice is, what would we do if it happened today? What steps would we take to ensure that the populace didn't fall under the sway of a dictator? I think that's a thought experiment that you have it and you don't think that it will ever happen here. But I think we're seeing that now. We are seeing the rationalization involved with you've demonized the left, so it's okay to do it to the left as long as you don't do it to us. Right. So I think we're seeing that beginning stages of Nazi Germany right now.
And part of Q is to not demoralize, but dehumanize the people on the left. The term of pedophile. There's a lot of things going on. Q is a really kind of weird. QAnon is a weird right-wing propaganda arm, and they are trying to dehumanize the people on the left to where the people one of their deals to where people on the right will be okay with us being executed. We're all pedophiles and lesbians.
I also want to point out that there is this kind of logical fallacy called the personal incredulity fallacy. And what happens then is that if a person cannot believe it, cannot find themselves to believe something, then that means it can't be true. So in other words, even if the data points solidly towards a certain direction, if they cannot wrap their minds around it, they just say automatically, oh, it has to be false.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah. I'm a little bit maybe I'm a weird kind of person, and then I'm kind of introspective. Yeah, I'm introspective. I very often question my own self, and I often have doubts. And I mean, I still get nervous before this show every day. I'm a very doubtful person of my own thing, and it is not above me to actually go, wait. Am I going too far? Is this wrong? Did Trump really do that, Chris? Are you just programmed by the left? I actually have the occasion to pause and go, and then Trump will say something like he's not going to take, or he tries to gut the post office, or one thing after another, or he replaces the head of the investigation who is looking into charges that he was helped by Russia to get into office. Every time I stop and go, wait, Chris, no, this is wrong, Chris. You're being too hard. Every time I look up, and now we are literally a month and a half away from the overthrow of our nation. I have a poll going. Stream Elements, are you there? Let's check out this poll. Here's the poll. When will Trump? This is how I see it. And guys, I have not been wrong since. I just haven't. I want to be wrong. Let me be wrong. When will Trump and the GOP drop the pretense and openly seize power? That's the poll for today, because I'm a crazy left-wing nutbag. I've been programmed. I'm actually thinking about taking like several days off and going fishing, or just not watching the news, because, I have my own doubts about this. And then I see things like Trump came out yesterday, NPR, Forbes, ABC, NBC, every channel, people, every channel except Fox. I could not find it on Fox, but everywhere except Fox, you could find Trump going, you know what? We're going to subvert the election. We're getting to the point to where we can't win, obviously. We can't kind of hide it in the background and rig it to win without being noticed. So now we're just going to ignore the results, and we're going to do it. And we're going to stack the Supreme Court. And when we decide we're not going to step away, the Supreme Court is going to give it to us. That's what happened yesterday, people. And I'm supposed to be calm.
Yeah, well, I think that Trump is definitely being very open about it, and the GOP is not. And the GOP, they're walking a very fine balance, because their base are those Americans, those constitutionalists, so called. So you can't just take. Trump can be blatant with the power, but he wouldn't be getting away with it if it wasn't for the GOP justifying it and rationalizing it to their American base. You know what I'm saying?
So
I think the GOP is going to take a long. Trump will be out in the open about it, and then the GOP will be wish-washy. Yeah, but no. Yeah, no. I'm convinced. I'm going to vote. I think they're going to do it before, because the closer we get to the election, and Andy brought this up, the closer we get to the election, the more in a corner they're going to get. Yeah. And I got to be honest, man, literally yesterday, he came out and said, you know what, we're going to ignore the election results, and we're going to depend on the Supreme Court to keep me in office. That's what he said yesterday. Oh yeah, there's
we're a month
no
and a
way.
half away, so that means they're getting really desperate. They'll get more bold and more brazen as the election goes on, and as the any kind of results start coming in, it's just going to get horrible. I'm actually going to vote before they are going to. It's just going to get worse. I thought what they're doing today, what they did yesterday, I thought that would happen like a week before the election, whenever they were just desperate. I've been saying that they were going to, at some point, the military is going to have to get. I've been saying it. This is the only way it's going to happen. Nobody else is going to step in and remove them from office. The military is going to have to get with the Democrats, remove the current president, vice president, and a good portion of the GOP from office physically, replace them with the Democrats, and then hold elections to replace the GOP, and hold investigations and trials against these GOP and the president and those kind of people. That's what needs to happen. There's no other way. Nobody else is going to stop this. If Trump goes, you know what, we're not leaving, nobody else is going to stop this.
And while I am definitely not arguing with that line of thinking, I just want to point out that there is no hard resets to societies. So
if they try this, they used our own Constitution, our ways against us. Fox News used the First Amendment against us. They did it. We need to adjust the First Amendment and get rid of Fox News. Tucker Carlson, the right wing has no longer achieved the right to spread their lies. They have to have legitimate. In journalism, there were rules. They need to be new rules for journalism. Period. Fox News gone.
I don't think that the military will
then
step in or should. I think it's going to have to be the people. And if it comes to this situation, people are going to die, but it's going to have to be the people stepping up. I think the moment that I think the moment that the military does that, then even if it's for a just cause or good intentions, now you have a military coup installing the opposition party. So no matter how you look at it, it's a takeover.
Wait, brother, I totally, absolutely get that. You have two options. You have that where the military stepped in and gave the one party that was actually a Democratic party back into power, or a foreign government's installed entire party and president. Yeah, I mean,
I think that there's a third option. You have the people. You have that mob rule that Rome
that
worried
we're building
about.
To.
We have, I mean, we're going to have to storm the White House. If he refuses to leave, human beings are going to have to storm the White House and make him. The military ain't going to do it. We're going to have to do it. That's what I think.
Right. And man, I hate to say that because I absolutely agree with you. I really do. I wrote a book 5 years ago, and it talked about the conservatives getting power, and it talked about the people storming the White House and storming Congress, literally coming over the walls. 1 million people, 2 million people storming Washington and trying to throw them out. And it had the conservatives using helicopters and firing rockets at the citizens of the United States as they stormed the grass of the White House and the all those places. You know what I I mean?
You're looking at a potential massacre, but I think that it's something that's going to have to happen if they stay, if they seize power and refuse to leave, and especially if the military seems to support it, which I think that's what I'm afraid.
That's what I'm afraid of too. So what if? So if the military doesn't, that's the scary thing there. I think Andy's mentioned that before. It all really depends on whose side of the coin the military flips on.
Yeah, and the military it isn't just one military. There are different branches. There are different people within the military with different.
We could have a civil war within our own military.
I mean, to tell you the truth, I mean, if I was going to be on my wish list, if I was going to wave my magic wand here, I would say that maybe an accident would happen to the dictator or the would-be dictator, and then people just shrug their shoulders. It's like, wow, that was one heck of an accident, and then things would just keep going after that.
Well, that would be okay if the GOP and all that weren't corrupt. The GOP props this guy up. If it were just Trump alone and we didn't have a corrupt, sold-out GOP, it wouldn't matter, because like you have said yourself, it only matters if they're willing to prosecute him. But they could find the most incompetent, bumbling idiot in the entire world and put him office. And as long as all the GOP went on his side, he could do anything stupid, and they would go for wait. They did that. That's exactly what they did. So, and they do. It doesn't matter. Nuke the hurricanes.
Nuke the Hurricanes.
You know,
I think that was my favorite 80s metal band.
As we get closer to the election and closer to things now, if the military does side with the people, what about is it possible that Trump would use the Blackwater forces, Betsy DeVos's brothers' Blackwater forces, to literally entrench himself in the White House and try to stay in? Or would he allow?
Yeah, I mean, he's already. they've already utilized groups like that in protest situations. He's
Absolutely.
utilized those groups. We've got the Proud Boys. He's already called out to the Bikers for Trump several times to try to intimidate people. Yeah, I think the scariest thing about all of this is that not that the American populace elected an idiot. That's going to happen occasionally, especially if that idiot has good PR. What's scary is how the GOP has bent to his will. If the GOP had integrity and been the GOP and stood as a balance to their own guy in office, well, it would be a different story. But they have bent the knee, and now we are where we're at.
Absolutely. I want to answer real quick Micro Raptor's question. DeVoe has depends on how you say it. I think it's DeVos. I'm going to call her DeVoe. DeVoe has a personal army. Betsy DeVoe has a personal. Actually, here's the deal. Peep this, my homies.
Well, her brother does,
Betsy
but
DeVoe,
same thing.
Yeah, Betsy DeVoe. Her brother. What's his name, guys? Do you remember?
Eric Prince.
Eric Prince. Eric Prince is the owner or one of the owners of Blackwater. Blackwater is a private military that was actually in Iraq and Afghanistan. I mean, they are a private. I don't want to say they could give our military a run for its money.
Well, they definitely don't have the rules, and they don't have the rules of engagement that the military has. These are mercenary forces.
Yeah.
Well, there's that too. Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, it's these low-level kind of conflicts, these low-level civil wars that are going on, these static conflicts like you see in the eastern part of Ukraine, for example, between Russian-led forces and the Ukrainian army. And that's the kind of conflict that these irregular paramilitaries or mercenary forces could take part in. Not in a full-blown conflict, I don't think. But if you're having like a low-grade tit-for-tat civil war, yeah, they could be a major player.
Yeah. Well, and that's kind of the deal.
So, they are a major player in the protest. They're already utilizing them in the protest against civilians, tactics that they used over there.
Thank you. Sorry. So Nokasuchi, that's exactly what I was going to say. To continue the thought, Micro Raptor, is that it has been alleged that not only Betsy DeVoe, Eric Prince, Blackwater's secret military that was used over in the Middle East, it has been alleged, and I've said it on this show probably more than once, that they are some of the unmarked police or unmarked officers who have been throwing people into unmarked vans in Portland and other places where riding these unmarked paramilitary dressed out people under the command of the president who have been going in and starting conflicts and stuff with the protesters or the protesters. It has been alleged that they are Blackwater. So now that's what Rage is talking about.
We have documentation, we have proof, we have video of Tiger Swan, another one of these groups, attacking indigenous protesters at Nodapo, using dogs on protesters, using insurgent tactics that they utilized over in the Middle East on American citizens practicing their First Amendment rights. So they're already utilizing these groups in this country against the citizenry.
I just want to point out how
blown. Wait. Micro Raptor just said, would it be fair to compare them to the Gestapo? It would, except for they're not out in the open. If they were out in the open, Trump's right arm, and you just knew that they were working for him, then yes.
I think at the very beginning stages of the Gestapo, Trump gets reelected, this Gestapo becomes real. Yeah.
So you should think about these groups to be more like, and I'm going to put on my geek hat a little bit more like stormtroopers or the brown shirts in the early days of the Nazi Party, because those were the ones who went out into the streets and fought Antifa. Those were the ones who fought the communists. So, and they were the paramilitary wing of the Republican Party. So, I mean, I'm sorry, my Freudian slip is showing there. The brown shirts were the paramilitary wing of the National Socialists, of the Nazis in Weimar Germany.
Right. That's just where we see it going, and it's like every time somebody goes, it's like there's this. Is it the Godfrey? I think it's called the Godfrey's Law or something. Like if you get into any kind of forum or thread and there's an argument, eventually Hitler will be brought up and excused. Well, that's true. I guess that may not be wrong. That eventually, if you get into any forum where somebody's going around, Obama was called Hitler, everybody's called Hitler. But at some point, an actual Hitler-like person is going to come along, and they're going to hide behind that law. They're going to go, wait, you're calling me Hitler, even though everything I do is Hitler-like. I mean, we're literally stacking, we're legally legally taking over the government and corrupting everything, and we're literally working it out like Hitler did. But no, I'm not like Hitler, because that's Godfrey's law.
It's Godwin's law. I just want to do some shout outs.
Thank you.
Some shout outs to the chat.
Thank you.
About Godwin's law. Thanks a lot, my chatters. Is that what we call people in the chat? The damnation. We'll go with damnation.
The damnation. Yes, the damnation. Thank you, Paul, for the £4.99 of support to the channel. He says, how likely is it that Trump won't leave if he loses the election? I'm saying very. I'm saying they won't. Now, see, I've been saying this whole time that they were going to rig it to the point to where...
How likely is it that Trump won't leave if he loses the election?
Yes. See, I've been saying that they'll rig the election somehow, and they'll win by crook. They're gonna rig the election. Now it kind of seems to the point to where they've kind of gotten to note that they're not going to be able to win it. People are going to turn out in such volume. There's no way they're going to be able to rig it like that. So their only recourse now is to literally just go, we don't believe it. We're just gonna the election was corrupt, and we're gonna stay in office. Period.
Trump's calculation on whether or not he's going to stay in power or try to stay in power after the election is going to be, because he's a coward, he's going to basically say to himself, will I be able to get away with it? If he feels like he's going to be able to get away with it, then he's going to throw the dice. He's going to make a run for it. If he feels that he can't get away with it, he will do bluster, talking point, Fox News show, or his own cable channel.
Well, and I think that's the ultimate thing that's problematic with this election. Is I think Joe Biden, if he feels like he lost fairly, is going to be willing to concede. Donald Trump, that's not even in his mind yet. That'll be a situation that plays out when it happens. And you're right. I think he'll make that choice depending on what he thinks he can get away with and what's going to be best for him and his family's legacy, because I think that's what he mainly cares about the most.
Yeah.
But we need to be, Biden and the left need to be as willing to, and unacceptable. It's unacceptable to lose, and they need to be that way. But Trump's side is that way. Our side is not. We need more Rachel Maddows. The right has got the Tucker Carlsons, the Rush Limbaughs, and these hundreds of little radio stations across the country that just spew out their nonsense, and they totally defend Trump. We see a completely different Trump than they see. So when we're mad at these Trump supporters, just know in the back of your mind that they don't know what we know. Like I said, I talked to my buddy the other day. He didn't know Trump was going after the post office.
I just want to speak out to speak to what Microraptor says or writes in the chat. As I understand it, fascist values the nation overall, but for Trump, it seems to be that he values himself above everyone else. So does he? Does that make him a fascist? And I would say yes, because of the values that he is polluting the country with are fascist values. Yes. You can make an argument whether or not any of these despots, any of these authoritarian rulers actually love their own country.
Well, we can't forget that Donald Trump popularized the word nationalist again, right? So, I mean, that is a huge important, whether he believes in it or not, he's propagating it.
And at some point in his mind, he is the state. If you're against him, you're against the state.
I just want to say that when you look at the polls, this is all presupposes that, we're going to have a fair election, which I know is very iffy at this point. But, in places like Pennsylvania, Biden is going to be winning or projected to win 76 out of 100 times. He has a 76 chance of percent of winning. Individual states are very hopeful in terms of what if the election is legitimate. Biden is more than likely, even in Florida, Biden is 58% chance of winning in Florida. And these would be huge wins. I mean, for him to get over 270 electoral votes.
And like what I get excited about, and I hope the dynamic changes and I hope this happens, is the closer we get to the election, the more, the clearer it becomes like, hey, we've got a real chance of taking the Senate back and maybe even getting out some of these entrenched powerhouse Republicans that have been there for a long time and flipping states that have been red blue for the first time. I mean, there's some reason to be excited. Now, we know that Trump's going to try to cheat, but will they try to cheat down ballot for everybody? I think that's something that nobody's really talking about.
Well, there's a
Well,
real
here's some-
chance of Trump cheating at the national level, but yet not able to cheat for every one of the senators. So there would be like maybe 52 senators who are Democrat.
But real quick, there's something that comes up in the chat. Real quick, though, but if Trump is going to, now it seems they're going to essentially go, listen, it doesn't matter what the election said. We're staying in office. There's no reason why the people who down ballot, who lose on the right, will also do the same. Or won't do the same. They can clearly do the same. Period. There's no reason why they can't. There's no reason why they
I think
won't.
you're right. But when that happens, when that moment happens, then they face a crossroads within their own party, because you are going to have the Trumpers that are going to follow along blindly. But this is the party that at least tells themselves they're constitutionalists. So you're going to hit a crossroads, and then it's either, you take that power and you eliminate your opposition, or you get swallowed up by a much larger opposition. We're facing some scary times moving forward, I think.
Well, John Peterson here says he's got a prediction. Biden will win by a landslide. Trump will skulk away and not challenge the results. Now, my understanding, and this is my understanding, Trump is already prepared to lose, and he was already, with lawyers in every state, prepared to contest the results. That was before he came out yesterday and essentially said, listen, man, it doesn't matter what the election says. We're going to call it null and void, and we're just going to keep me in power, and we're going to put somebody in the Supreme Court who's going to let me do that. That's literally what he came out and said. Well, my version broken down of what he said yesterday. So I don't think you're right there, John. I don't mean to be disagreeable, but I
definitely hope
he's going to fight every tooth and nail.
I definitely hope John is right, but John's like an optimist, and I love that about him, because he brings me up because I'm such a pessimist. I hope John is right, but I am a pessimist, and I'm like, I don't see Trump walking away peacefully. Even if he ends up conceding and doing the right thing, he's gonna make a month-long stink about it before it happens.
Yeah, sure enough.
I don't know. It just seems like there's nobody that can stop them. Again, if Trump says, no, I'm staying in office, who does Nancy Pelosi go to the chief security guard at the White House and go, hello, chief security guard, I need you to, here's the Constitution. This says he needs to be out by this day. Will you walk me across and escort this gentleman off the property? Will they do? Is that how that works?
Well, by my understanding, it's all going to fall on the Secret Service. What the Secret Service chooses to do on that day when Donald Trump goes against the Constitution and doesn't leave, what the Secret Service does is going to dictate a lot of what happens next.
The guys with the guns are always the ones in charge implicitly. You had the Praetorian Guard during the Roman times, and the Praetorian Guard were the quote-unquote bodyguard of the emperors. But in all reality, if you're that close to the emperor and you got the weapons, guess what? You're the ones who are actually in charge. Now, they made that explicit, the Praetorian Guard did, by actually putting emperors on the throne. But yeah, the people who are close to Trump, who have weapons, and he, those are the people who are really in control.
Well, yeah, and that's the scary thing that nobody's talking about as well. Like, Trump has blatantly brought his personal Secret Service agents in, the Secret Service. He's taking them to his lavish hotels. He's throwing them into a life they've never seen before. I mean, nobody's talking about that, and how he's kind of, I don't know, maybe trying to bring in those Secret Service agents that might be the ones that have to remove him if he were to abuse his power or become that dictator.
We were talking about the SS and the Gestapo a little while ago, and that started out as Hitler's personal bodyguard, because Hitler had a whole ton of assassination attempts on him or at him before he became in power. Before he got into power, people understood that he was a problem, and
you had Antifa and the communists trying to take him out. Yeah,
exactly. So yeah, you could definitely see that this core. I mean, if I was Trump, then I would want a bunch of people personally loyal to me around me, and I would go out of my way to do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and he's done that. I mean, all you have to do is placate the man, and you're going to be his best friend. All you have to do is go along the line, talk about how great he is, and you're the best ever at whatever it is you do. So I mean, and we see that. We know that that's happening. That there are people in the government who are trying to pretend like they're the good guys, and they're holding him in check. but they kiss this man's ass and they don't do anything real to hold him in check. And it's disgusting. Like, where are these patriots? Where are these brave people willing to come out publicly and say, this man is doing this? We get them, but then, you know, they just call him a whistleblower and they're traitors. I mean, it's a no-win situation right now, but the only way we eventually win is we keep up the pressure and we stay in the streets and we keep doing this civil unrest that we're seeing.
Yeah.
And you know, one of the things it does kind of, Joe Biden, one of my problems with Joe Biden, listen, if you're a Republican, you should be, in my opinion, just all over Joe Biden, because I've said from like forever, I was pissed they chose Joe Biden because he's actually more of an old guard Republican than he is a new progressive. He's nowhere near AOC or Bernie or anybody.
He's further to the right than Ronald Reagan, no doubt.
Oh yeah, he's very, so I would think a normal, what I consider old guard Republican would love Joe Biden. Politics, I mean, the title of Democrat, Republican, that's just a label, right? You're following the policies and this man, and then to see. So that just, you got that. You got over here is a candidate who really is more, embodies your values, even though he's labeled as something else. He embodies your values. And then to see your candidate literally come out and say what Trump said yesterday. How could you possibly still vote for Trump?
I just want to point out how white supremacist our country is. Whenever Joe Biden goes up and talks to people, and they're like these clips that you can see on TV, which are advertisements for all intents and purposes for Joe Biden. He will address a crowd and goes, "Do I look like a radical to you?" And he shrugs his shoulders in that kind of avuncular kind of way. And it's like, man, that is like a white privilege superpower being shown off there. It's like, look, you can't be mad at me. I'm an old white guy.
Well, and one thing that I've never understood with Joe Biden, it's a different dynamic because Joe Biden's a Catholic and evangelical Protestants hate Catholics almost as much as they hate atheists. But like when it was Obama was a Christian, right? Like he was like a real Christian, went to church every Sunday. He's been with his one wife and they take care of their children. Like he's the real Christian. But they follow Donald Trump and they justify a man who's not a real Christian, was an atheist right up until he ran for office and started to pretend to be a Christian, has had several wives, cheats with porn stars, kids from different women, and yet they call him the chosen one. God sent him to fix the country, and Obama was a Muslim radical person trying to take over. Like, I don't understand. You have real Christians that actually believe in your bullshit and follow it and go to church every Sunday, and you follow the man that raw dogs porn stars. I mean, I don't understand it.
And then uses campaign money to pay for it, and then lies about it in front of people, and then his own lawyer's in jail for admitting and yet they still follow the guy.
Oh yeah.
I mean, and now those were just personal things, man. One that is personal is personal. Personal is one thing, but to come out and attack Social Security people, he stopped taking Social Security taxes out of all the federal government's employees. He's trying to kill Social Security and Medicare. He is. Oh my God, you old people who are voting for Trump out there, why? He's trying to kill your Social Security. Do you know how hard it was to fight for that and to get that for people? Too.
Like, how stupid are you to do it before
he literally thinks, could they possibly be?
He literally thinks he can step out on Madison Avenue and pull that gun out and shoot somebody because he's doing it to his base, and they're not. It doesn't seem like the old people are leaving him. Like, they're not even talking about, oh yeah, take my Social Security, I'll starve, go for it. What?
Well, tribalism is the original sin of our species. It just shows you that the midbrain will just take over whatever's going up here in the forebrain, and you just got to wave the flag of tribalism, and people are going to be like, yeah, I'm all for that. Whatever crazy ideas down the pike, whatever the candidate does, it's like, this is what I'm about. This is who I am, and so I have to vote for this person, even though they are despicable.
I mean, I'm gonna starve, but we sure did own those libtards.
Yeah. You know, if it weren't for the liberals, we wouldn't have Social Security, Medicare, all those things, and now they're taking them away, man. But see, that's the whole deal, and that's one of the things I want to. All right, Miss
I just
Trina.
want to say that I've been
What-
listening to Don Rickles. I've been watching Don Rickles videos on YouTube of him roasting people, and that's what has kept
Right.
me mentally stable.
Mentally
or at least as
stable.
mentally stable as I have been.
Yeah. See the what has happened, Miss Trina, is that what we knew before is gone, and now the Tea Party, the crazy right-wing, racist, religiously backed Tea Party, has taken over the Republican Party. That's just all there is to it. There's no doubt that has happened. The old, what we call old guard Republicans, have now shifted. Literally, they're literally telling people to go vote for Biden by the dozens, hundreds. It's just happening all over the place towards being called Democrats. But they're starting to overwhelm the Democrats so much that we get people like Biden instead of people like Bernie. So the old guard Republicans have actually taken over the Democratic Party. A new party should be called the Progressive Party. And it's just, we've lost the Republicans that you know are gone. You're talking about the Tea Party now. You are a Tea Partyist if you're a Republican.
I
so
agree with you. I think that the moderate Republicans have quite plainly joined with the establishment Democrats, and that's really scary because that's going to change the dynamic of the DNC. The DNC are the ones that often are fighting against overseas intervention, but now we have literally the neocons infiltrating the DNC and becoming part of that establishment, the moderates. So it's going to change the
Chris,
dynamic
you
of the
need a
DNC,
copy.
and it's going to push us lefties even farther away from being Democrats.
And let's face it, moderate Republicans are the people who got us into this mess to begin with.
Yeah.
That's
true.
true.
They're the ones who ceded power.
As much as what I love what the Lincoln Project does, we cannot forget that the Lincoln Projects are our enemies.
That's true. They are. Real quick, I want to say thank you to Paul for the £4.99 of support. He says, I need a coffee. Do you mean, man, I'm doing good and I just keep a coffee so I can keep going? Or do you mean I need to settle down with coffee? Do you mean I need a drink? Am I doing good or bad? I'm not really sure how you mean that, but thank you.
If you're getting paid, you're doing okay, Chris.
I'm doing okay.
That's what I'm telling you.
Tweak, my brother, tweak. Anyway, so yeah, I've been trying to take a break after this. That's one of the things that I've been doing. I've been doing other stuff. I shut this off and I go away. Sometimes I come up with a topic for tomorrow's show.
It's difficult to stay abreast of all the different apocalypti. I'm not sure. I think it's apocalypses that are running at any one time.
Yes.
So like the Breonna Taylor verdict yesterday. Okay, so that's something I have to be able to intelligently talk about, or at least not spout stupidity. The environmental crisis, that's something I have to be able to talk intelligently about. The downfall of the Roman Republic and how it applies to our country. Yeah, that's kind of helpful too. So there's all of these things, and I can totally agree with you, Chris. There is just a lot of stuff to consume in terms of media and in terms of content, and then you have to think to yourself, how am I going to package this up in an entertaining way so people's eyes don't glaze over and go like that?
I think we're doing okay so far.
So far, so good.
Well, that's another thing about the nature of what we're talking about. I have it written over here, a couple of points that I wanted to talk about as we go forward. One of them is that, remember I've said that, and Andy said it too, the caged animal thing, as we get closer to the election, Trump is going to get more and more desperate. And then I'm sitting there going, wow, that desperation is coming way faster than I thought. I want to mention a couple of things. One is I mentioned in the past that I predicted Trump would, or his people would try to arrest people on the left, like Pelosi or some of the Biden even, or somebody, and try to do things like that. Before the thing, I've said they would try to do. That's a long, complicated story. The second thing, though, is the closer we get to it, and the more and more it looks like they're not going to be able to stop it, and Trump is going to lose if it goes that way, and Trump is going to lose, and they're really going to remove him from office. And he's sitting there and he's waiting for them and they're coming. Let's just, in our minds, let's say this is going to happen. Have any of you people watched Babylon 5, gotten into season 4, and whenever they were going to remove the president, who did much the same thing that our president has done? He does this deal where it's called Scorched Earth. Oh, yeah. And he takes the weapons around the earth that are there to protect the earth and turns them against the earth because he knows he's fixing to lose. And then he sets those weapons to fire, and then he kills himself.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then the people that invading have to actually go, oh, shit, they're fixing to shoot on their own people. Stop them. And they all go after and have to save them. I see something not unlike that happening. we're going into dangerous territory whenever this man comes out and says he's not going to leave office. And that's what he said yesterday.
Yeah, and you're right to bring us back to that is the idea of the chief executive, the commander in chief of the military, saying that, hey, I'm not going. You got me for who knows how long, as long as I tells you.
But what happens if they do decide to remove him and he knows he's got that button? He's got whatever he's got.
Well, he's got.
They're coming to get him.
But during there's a story about Nixon, right, during the Watergate, and I think it was one of the Secretary of the Navy was talking to the Secret Service guys. He was walking out and he puts his arms around one of the Secret Service guys. He goes, "Listen, if he asks for the football, give me a call. Or if he starts acting squirrely, you should really give me a call first." So it isn't as if there aren't implicit checks and balances.
Who did that?
Presidential power.
Who did that?
It was the Secretary of the Navy, I believe, during the Watergate. So there is a chain of command. And
of course,
that's dangerous territory too. It's dangerous territory when the military decides not to take an order from the civilian government. That's a dangerous point too.
Yeah. Just kind of something. I just see that if a couple of points, what happens if he does? And he doesn't. It doesn't even have to be the nukes. It doesn't even have to be a nuke necessarily. It could just be his own little private military that he's been building that we've been talking about. We've mentioned it on this show.
To tell you the truth, he could probably get away with it if he just agitates enough. Colors kind of outside the lines, but within the lines. Have Republican governors order states of emergency within their state, say that, and this is not an original scenario that I am telling right now. The Republican governor
did it all legally.
And the Republican legislators will name their own electors because you can't trust the vote. The Dems will take it to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court will probably not even listen to that court case because of the fact that in the Constitution, it says that states are in charge of a presidential elections. I know it's hypocrisy, and I know we all remember the Bush v. Gore thing. But in all reality, that was probably a Supreme Court overreach right there. So if the court was going to do its job as constitutional, as the states in the Constitution, they would be like, well, the states have power to do this. It's right there, which means that, the Republican governors would be able to sway the election for Trump. That is probably the most likely of the nightmare scenarios. If we are going to have a nightmare scenario, that would probably be the most likely one.
All right, now let's just pause and set that over here. The governors will give Trump. I'm gonna set that over here. Yeah. What does it take in order to change the Constitution to where there are no term limits? It takes a constitutional vote or something of 2/3 of the governors of the states.
Yeah, it's 2/3 of the states have to vote on it after it goes through the House and the Senate.
And I see those things. If there's no more, I see that happening. If Trump can manage to survive into a legitimate presidency somehow through this next thing, that's how I see they doing it. They just push it through. Well,
that's how despots do it in other countries. They just rearrange the Constitution to their liking. Thankfully, our Constitution, and this is one of the problems too, is that it is so. There are so many safeguards, at least legally speaking. There are safeguards against changing it because actually adding an amendment is really a hard lift. So there may be ways of manipulating the Constitution or manipulating the process so Trump just stays in there for another term.
Yeah, and technically, I'm not sure if constitutionally.
On the cat.
I'm not sure if by the Constitution the president has a term limit.
He does. They put it in after FDR because Republicans realized, hey, he had four presidential terms.
Yeah,
you can't have 4 presidential terms.
He did such good and so much for the populace that they just couldn't get him out.
That's the only reason.
So I mean, did they make it a law though, or was it just a precedent?
It's a law.
Yeah. So now they have to.
Up until FDR's presidency, it was only a tradition that the president would only have 2 terms. That was set up.
But now it is a law. All right, cool. Thank you. Now, I was always unclear about that. Yeah.
But now it is a constitutional amendment, and that was because of FDR's 4 terms.
Yes. Remember, Sammy Jenkins, thank you for the $2 Australian of support to the channel. He just wants to make me say grab him by the pussy. I ain't afraid
Oh,
to say it.
hey. How about
Hey, man,
that?
if our traitor and thief can say it, I can say it.
Sure.
Hmm.
I really
Anyway.
support
and
But you know,
the
Johnson
sad
used
part
to
about
fling his
that,
Johnson around. What keeps me from flinging my Johnson around? And do I call it my Johnson or do I call it my Chris? Here's my Mallard. Do you people know what I'm talking about? Sorry.
well, I think we've definitely seen a rise in blatant misogyny because I mean the snake
yeah.
rots from the head down, and when you have a president talking about
True.
sexually abusing women, now you have a whole bunch of men seeing that and say, "Hey, he does it, I can do it. He sets the standards." So I think we see a definite rise in misogyny across the board.
Well, that's the nature of patriarchal hierarchies, aren't they? Whether or not you're a Baptist, a Catholic, or part of the, I don't know, oligarchical Christo sect of Donald J. Trump. I mean, that is just a baked-in nature of this kind of system is misogyny. You got to have, in this system, there are bullies and there are victims, and that's what makes the systems work.
True enough. Jedzia Dex, there's like I don't know, they're deciding whether or not they want to see the mallard of pleasure. Anyway,
I do declare.
Thank you, the Blazing Wizard Pope, for the 50 Danish crowns of support to the channel. He says, I do declare. I'm going to turn that sound off because I'm going to make I'm going to start saying the words again, but thank you very much for that. Okay, she said no. No mallard pics in the text mail. All right, so one more thing before we got a few more minutes. We've talked about the Weimar Republic. Now, I've made certain predictions about Trump. They fell short. Trump has actually done more and been worse than I predicted. Now, before this very show, we talked about my concerns about the Weimar Republic and things that we say on this show being used against us later after the elections.
Shallow graves for us all, gentlemen. Shallow graves for us all.
And we just there's just such a precedent for this to have happened. But anybody, again, another Star Trek reference. Have you watched Deep Space Nine? They had a resistance force called the Maquis. The Maquis took their name from the Maquis, which was a French group who were fighting the Nazis during World War I or two. And they were French citizens who were just rebels fighting, this is, it's not where we see these things going. Like we talk about the freedom of speech, we cannot, so we win, right? We shut them down. We win. And Chris is going, shut down Fox News, shut down all these oh no, we can't do that because that violates their First Amendment rights. Well, damn it. Whenever they have power, their goal doesn't stop at trying to violate our First Amendment rights. It goes all the way to taking away people's right to vote, taking away people's right to their bodies, taking away people's rights to get married. And, there's a lot that these people are trying to take away, and somebody's pissed because I want to take away Fox News's right to openly and blatantly lie to our nation.
I'll tell you the first thing that I would do, and this echoes, I believe it's C Ski in the chat who stated about raising taxes. The most important thing we could do is to raise taxes on the super rich, because when you have a properly functioning government, you have properly functioning services like education, like healthcare, like transportation, and that's when people feel safe and they don't do stupid things like vote in dictators or go to church.
Yeah, and we really, really need to fix the loopholes in the tax system, like Donald Trump pretended to do. Stop these loopholes to where these really rich people can funnel their money out of the country into offshore accounts. Look at the Panama Papers. We are losing $200 billion a year in tax revenue because the rich are just greedy fucks and don't want to do their part for this country. We need to tax the rich, and we don't.
Seriously,
We only need to eat 2 or 3 billionaires. That's all. And we could have like healthcare for everybody in our nation. We could have a doctorate level education for everyone in our nation if we just ate 2 or 3 billionaires. And they have zero problem starving out hundreds of thousands. Well, I again attribute a great majority. Now, we would have had some of the 200,000 deaths from the COVID regardless of whether it was Trump or anybody else. We would have had, but our numbers wouldn't be nearly as high. We got all those deaths to stack upon greed. You know, why couldn't we have, if we had that many billionaires or millionaires and we stacked up their bodies and because what happens whenever these people go to the doctor? When they go to the doctor and they try to go to medical facilities to take care of their needs, it costs hundreds of thousands of dollars. All this is very expensive, so they're going to die and be rendered destitute. So essentially, Trump and the rich are killing people and stealing their wealth. Literally, all that goes to the big pharma who goes here, who here, blah, 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 blah. You've heard us all say it. And that's what's happening. Why can't we just take a few billionaires and go, you look tasty, and you look tasty, and you look tasty? Once we eat these people and make an example of them, that would be good. Trump can't get away with this. Trump and the GOP, if they are doing what I say they are doing, and yesterday they fucking proved it.
So, Chris, are there?
We should eat them. We should kill and eat them, and we should disperse all their wealth to the people of the United States.
I have a serious question. Are there tofu billionaires? Because I'm a vegetarian now, you know.
That's a really good point. But are you against leather? We could make you a couch.
I try not to inflict misery on my fellow creatures as much as humanly possible.
Well, I think this all speaks to outrage culture. You know, 9/11 happened, and we all watched on the news as 2,000 people died, and we were all outraged, and we went to war for 20 years over it. We watched as people jumped from those buildings to escape the flames to their certain deaths. I am one of those people jumping from the 9/11 tower to avoid the flames right now, because we have 200,000 people dead. We have a virus out there floating around, killing people. And I have to walk into it. Capitalism forces me to walk into that danger, you know, to jump off of that roof to escape the flames. So my house doesn't get burned down. I mean, we need to be outraged about what we really should be outraged. We should have been outraged over 9/11. 200,000 people are dead. And a lot of that is due to the negligence of the president of the United States. He needs to be held accountable.
Absolutely. Absolutely. He needs to be held accountable. I mean, period. There's just so much that that's kind of my point. Nobody's going to hold them accountable. If they were going to, they would have. He's done so many blatant things. There's just so much. Listen, it came out, 3 weeks ago that he literally knew in February, and he downplayed the virus, and he's literally holding indoor. Nobody cares. Nobody's going to stop him. And now Trump has come out. He's dropped his big card. He said, listen, I'm not stepping aside. It doesn't matter what the election says. Election is false. I'm not stepping aside, period. He said that yesterday. He should be removed from office today. There should be military intervention or somebody, but who's going to do it, right? Andy says not the military. People say not the military. But I say that's the only way it's going to happen. The military needs to intervene, pull him out of office, put the Democrats in office, and then we hold new elections for the conservatives. While we put these conservatives on trial and expose their traitorous nature and show the future conservatives they can't do this to our country. Okay, Andy, sorry.
I would say that my position was a bit more nuanced than the military.
Yeah. Nuance. Give us nuance, brother.
Well, I was saying that, you know, the military isn't a monolithic institution. It isn't like they have one high.
No, we know that.
Brain.
Yeah.
So there may be actors who do the what many would consider unthinkable and deal with President Trump in a violent way, and there may be people in the military who will not, who would persecute those people. Right. Or fight those people. So, you know, let's not forget that Rome's biggest problem was Rome, that legions fought legions over who was in charge. Yeah. And so we could easily have, you know, in terms of nightmare scenarios, you could have just parts of the military fighting parts of the military.
Right. Oh, no, I know. Well, what I'm saying is, I mean, I'm not saying if somebody were to, and dare I say it, heaven forbid, if somebody were to assassinate President Trump, that would solve nothing. That just make things worse. I mean, we already talked about how the right, the GOP on the right, well, it used to be the Republicans, which is now the Tea Party Republicans, they don't care what Trump says. They don't care. The babbling idiot could be he's a babbling idiot. We've already established that. So if Trump were assassinated, it'd just be Pence. It doesn't matter. They'd still do what they want. It doesn't matter. We need to get them all out. And you're right. Military against our own military is what it would possibly get to if certain things happen. But again, we've got, I don't know. You can't go back though. Can you go back? And at what point do we go, you know what? It's done. We're a fascist state now. Hail Trump. Just hail Trump. We need to just change the flag. Stop pretending. At what point do we do that? Before or after the elections? After
I will say the most intelligent thing, if you have the means, you should have a bug out bag with some cash and your passport ready. That's, I think we're at that kind of scenario at this point. So
yeah, might be time to become a prepper.
Yeah, or a fleer. A fleer.
Fleer,
yeah, fleer. Yeah.
I don't know. Anyway, guys, we've done the hour. I'm going to wrap it up. I thank you for enjoying my craziness with me. People, I mean, I don't know. I don't know. Am I too far to the left? Am I drinking too much of the left Kool-Aid? I don't know. It's hard to say. I worry about that very thing. And then Trump comes out and says he's going to ignore the elections.
Yeah.
People, I'm not drinking too much of the Kool-Aid. This is real. You need to be mad. I think I'm officially instigating sedition. You need to rise up against this false president. I'm just saying, officially. I would go to jail for that. So come get me, bitches. Make me famous. Mm-hmm. So you were gonna say, I'm sorry. I'm just mad.
Oh no, I was just gonna say, I just think it's unfortunate that any of this is a possibility, but it is. And if we're not thinking about all of the scenarios, we're doing ourselves an injustice when the worst does happen in November.
Right. Yep. And we make those kind of funny jokes. Here's a good one from the Blazing Wizard Pope. Thank you for the 50 Danish crowns of support. He says, Andy Frank's diary.
You can stay in my attic. Well played, Blazing. Well played.
Well played. Yeah.
Andy Frank's diary. You can stay in my attic.
Every time I make these predictions, I'm crazy. And then, guys, I'm crazy. And then it's always worse. I never would have thought that they would gut the post office. I mean, they've always been against the post office, but to literally blatantly start ripping out machines so people can't vote. I mean, that blew my mind. Who would have thought? And now literally to go, they're just going, we don't care. Trump is going to win. He's going to be, I just, and if our Democrats roll over and don't stop this, then just done.
Well, and they're going to. They're already rolling over the RBG thing. We see Tim Kaine came out saying we're not going to do this. Nancy Pelosi saying we're not going to do that. They're already rolling over. I mean, they're weak, feckless people that don't have the backbones of their opposition, and it's why they always lose to their opposition.
They rather they would rather keep what they have than to go for the brass ring. That's the problem with the DNC.
If only we had a Mitch McConnell on our side.
Well, you need to have Mitch McConnell levels of money, my friend, to pay off somebody like Mitch McConnell.
Surely people on the right have got, or left. I mean, surely somebody you're right though. No doubt. You got to have Russian oligarchy levels of money to pay off somebody like Mitch McConnell. Possibly a topic for another show.
Rich, like Nazi rich.
Yeah. All right, guys. Thank you very much for joining me today. Going lefty crazy with me. Thank you to everybody in the chat. I very much appreciate you. You're all wonderful. Thank you to everybody who watches on Facebook. Good morning, Letty Carrillo. Nice to have you with us. And to the people who listen on the Daily Atheist Morning Show podcast. You all have a wonderful day, and we will see you tomorrow. Take care.
Peace around.
Thank you for watching the show. A special shout out to my gold level Patreon supporters, Ian Davenport, Cindy Plaza, and tons of mice. Thank you, and have a great day.